So the market started at 10 and we've made one sale so far, so we're an hour in. And this is the hat. You would have seen it on my previous.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get this.
Okay,
really
awesome. So what do I have on that one?
60.
And do you want to do cash or card? Okay, it's 2 o'clock now and we've almost hit my sales goal. I am $81 away from my sales goal and I've been restocking a lot of the stuff all day. And it was slow the first hour, but then after that it's been pretty consistent. We are down to the last 30 minutes and there's still quite a few people shopping. The booth is pretty empty though, so I will do a booth tour at the end and you'll see it's pretty empty. So we just got back and I know about halfway through I was starting to feel like I was going to get a sunburn, and so I had my husband pick up some sunscreen and I'm like, oh, it'll be okay, because it was like in the morning that I didn't have the sunscreen. So I'm like, well, the afternoon I'll have the sunscreen, it'll be fine, and it's only like 70 degrees. No, I'm burnt. Hi, I'm Bree, the owner of Itty Bitty Berry, and let's get into our market breakdown. So this was the Noblesville Fairy, I want to call it, yeah, Fairyville. This was called Fairyville. And this was their 14th annual one. This is the first time I've been there. It was a little bit of a travel for me, and this is the first time I've traveled further than an hour for a market. It was definitely worth it though. As you could see from the title, this was my best market yet. I definitely learned some new things, and we'll talk about those as well. This market was from 10 to 4, and there was a $40 booth fee, so not bad at all. It was a 2-day event. They had from like 4 to 9 on Friday, and then they had Saturday 10 to 4. But you could choose just to do one day, because I prefer not to stay at a hotel for markets, because then it kind of digs into more of your profit when you have to pay for a hotel and stuff. So this event drew in a lot of families and kids, with it being Fairyville. There was a lot of kids dressed up as fairies. This event kind of went, the market was Friday and Saturday, but the whole event went from Monday to Saturday. And businesses all around, they did like fairy themed things, like fairy themed foods, fairy themed drinks, like boutiques had like extra sales. And on Wednesday or Thursday, I believe, kids could go in for free and make a fairy house. And then Friday night, they put all the fairy houses along a wooded trail, and the families could go and find the fairy houses, and everybody could vote for their favorite fairy house, and of course somebody would win and stuff. But the whole thing was like, oh, it's becoming spring, the fairies are coming back out, and let's make them little homes to live in, giving the name Fairyville. A lot of businesses, like people were dressed up as fairies for the week, trying to give that magical theme for the kids. There was also like a craft area for the kids where they could make wings, wands, headbands. There was face painting. I don't think there was food trucks, because they were trying to get everybody to support the local cafes and things like that. They also had fairy tea parties, which families could sign up before. So yeah, there was a lot of events going on for kids, and it was a lot of fun. I loved seeing all the little girls dressed up with their little fairy wings. It was so cute. I seen a little boy dressed up as a dinosaur, or like a dragon. I guess it would be a dragon because he had wings. That was really cute. So I was a little nervous about this because I didn't really know what the turnout was going to be. I've never been to anything like this before, but it ended up being really good. And when I was there, I also got a little disappointed because there was 41 booths when we got the vendor map. So I'm like, oh, that's not big. Maybe people won't come out. And then when we got there, every other booth was a crochet booth. So I'm like, okay, great. We'll see how this goes. And, you know, we had to drive farther. If I didn't have to drive so far, it wouldn't be as bad. But driving so far made me worry. But my husband was really supportive. He's like, you know what? We're just going to see how the day goes. It could go great. And if it doesn't, we just know not to come back next year. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I gotta just, it's going to be okay. I think what drew in a lot of people was where it was at. It was on their town square. So anybody driving downtown would see all the tents. Even though it was their 14th annual one, we had a lot of people coming and saying, oh, we just learned that this is Fairyville. We didn't even know what it was. We just saw all these tents, and so we stopped. That's why we're not dressed up, and I didn't bring cash with me. And I heard a lot of that, so I think they need to advertise it a little bit better, since people in the town didn't know what was going on, but people were stopping because they seen stuff on the town square. And then there was somebody handing out maps, too, to show them all the activities. And where I was at in booth placement, we were at the end of the Faery trail, and they would come to where my booth was first. I was not the first booth there, but in that general area. I wish I would have got some footage. I'm still not the best at vlogging. And I really wanted to get some more footage of me interacting with customers, but I take my card payments through my phone, and so that makes it more difficult. So I didn't get much footage of that. I love to film a little bit of the other booths around me. The girl beside me made handmade clay earrings with her 7-year-old daughter. That was so cute. I loved it. If I can find her information, I'll put it down below. And then there was a lady on the end who had made fairy houses, and let me tell you, these were gorgeous. They lit up. There were like 2-3-story fairy houses with little ladders. One had a dragon on the top. They were so beautiful, and she did great. She only had like 4 left by the end of the day. I was like, that she did great. And she said she just made them with wood she found outside her house, just tree branches and bark, and like they were so beautiful. I don't know if she has a social media or anything. If she does, I'll put it down below. She does a lot of wedding center pieces, so if you're looking for fairy wedding stuff, I would check her out. I really wanted to buy one because my wedding was fairy themed, and my living room is fairy themed because I repurposed all my wedding decorations and that like mystical forest vibe, but I literally have nowhere else to put a fairy house that I can think of in my living room or dining room. And my husband was like, yeah, where are you gonna put that? You don't need another one. But if I think of a place, I'm probably gonna get one next year because they were so beautiful. She even did the books like that you put in your bookcase and like you can see inside the book. She even did those, and those were beautiful. Of course, I did a little bit of shopping. I think I only bought from one booth. I bought a pair of earrings, and I'm wearing them right now. These are, little lunar moth earrings. I could not resist. I love moths. I love Luna moths, the rosy maple moths, there's another one with a moon name, but I can't think of it right now. But I just love moths. They're so cute. So I had to get these, and I thought green would be a great color because I don't have a lot of green earrings. I also bought a star set. They were like blue and silver, and then they had a little rainbow, and I thought, oh, this would be cute. So I bought both of those. Her name was the Crafty Bee. So if I find any of her Etsy, social media, any of that, I'll also link it down below for you. So let's get into the actual breakdown. I have my computer in front of me, so that's why I'm looking down. So I know this number is not quite correct because there was a few payments that somebody asked if they could do part cash and part card. So I didn't necessarily like mark that in the square because I wasn't thinking about it. I was thinking of, okay, type in this much for the card, and then I didn't type in the cash amount or type in what sold, but I think I can remember to tell you what sold. And then that happened about twice. And then I know my husband took a Venmo payment, and I know he wouldn't have marked that in the square inventory. So I know this number should be just a little bit bigger, but I'm not sure by how much. So my net sales was $930.38. That is the best I've done. I've had a few markets where I get around like $850, maybe $860. But this, I sold out a lot of old inventory. My bigger items were moving. That was something I learned in this town, was closer to Indianapolis. So people, like, they didn't just gravitate towards the small items. If they seen a bigger item they liked, they were just going to buy it. To where I live in a smaller town, people typically stick to $20 and under. Sometimes even $20, they won't buy it. So all of my higher priced items, they sold, and some of them I've even had forever, because in my area, people just don't spend that much. So I think that was a big part of it, was the area. Also, I think I would have done better if I had more inventory, but by the end of the day, I had like maybe 20 plushies left, so a lot of people were just kind of like walking by because there wasn't a lot to look at. So I probably would have made more if I had more. So we can, it started at 10. I don't know if I can click on this. No, I can't. So from 10 to 11, I think I only made one sale. I think I say that in the video. 11 was my busiest time, and then I went, 12 was not quite as busy. 1, 2, and 3 were pretty consistent with each other. They weren't as busy. I would say 11, it was swamped. Probably 1, it was swamped again, but 2 and 3, things were slowing down for the day. And I didn't make as many sales because I didn't have as much inventory left. I would say by 1, I was wiped out. So that's 2 whole hours of extra money I could have made if I had the inventory. But I'm only one person and I brought what I brought, so I'm still happy with how I did, especially getting rid of some of that old inventory that I've had forever. So gross sales was $935.80, and then for discounts I gave $5.42 because I have one right here, these comeback cards. Again, I'm still testing them, but they look like this. It's just a little card that says, "Thanks for stopping by. Come back today for 10% off your purchase." So I give those to people who are saying, "Oh, let's walk around first." And if I hear that, I try to catch them and give them that card so that when they're done walking around, they have my information in their hand and a coupon, hopefully to bring them back. I only had 2 people come back with those, and I gave out about 7. And last time I did this, I think I gave out like 5 and had 3 people come back. So I'm not really sure if it's working the way I want or not. I'm still going to keep testing it and see, because in my head, it sounds like a great idea, but I don't necessarily know if it's really bringing people back or not. Okay, so looking at my items here, my most popular item was my $5 items. I sold $100 worth of $5 items. This goes by price and not necessarily by quantity. I don't know how to switch it to quantity, so if you know how to switch it in Square to figure out quantity over amount, let me know. Next was a Dragon Lovey for $60, then the character plushies for $50, and swing animals for $50. My number 1 is a custom amount, and I'm not really sure why it's saying that. So those are the top 4. As from last time, you can see the $5 items, the characters, and the swings are still in the top. Those are pretty popular for me. Okay. So let's get into my actual detailed sales report. So if it was a card, I tried to remember to charge my 10 cents card fee. It's on the sign. People know about it. I did have that was another thing about this area. A lot more people paid with Venmo. Usually I have like one person play with Venmo, maybe every other market. This, I think I had like 5 people pay with Venmo. So, and I'm not quite sure, I didn't know how to put that into my square, so it probably just says cash for the Venmo ones on some of them. So if you hear like 10 cents, you know it was card. So on card, my first sale was at 10:26. So as you can see, I was getting nervous. It started at 10. I didn't make a sale till 10:26. And that was my character, one of the characters for $10, and that was specifically a Pokemon. I remember that one because a guy came in with a little corgi. Next was another card at 11:13. So yeah, I went another pretty big jump for no sales. This was my second sale, and my big dragon sold. I brought it as a display piece, and it was getting attention before that. I had somebody come into my booth. They were looking at it. They were asking about it. They were asking about how much work I put into it. And it was really nice because they're like, if I was you, I would charge $80. I don't think you're charging enough for this, which was crazy to me because I thought, especially in my area, nobody would pay $60. I would have that thing for a long time. But I made it as a display piece. It was no problem here. It was the second sale of the day, so for $60.10, I sold my big dragon. At 11:16, in cash, we had, my little duck with a frog hat. Not the little ones, it was a bigger one, and I sold that for $18. So you can see it's picking up here. At 11:17 with cash, we had an axolotl. 11:21 with cash, we had a $5 item. 11:24 with cash, we had a $5 item, an animal on a swing, and it says a custom amount. So I'm trying to think here. The custom amount was $10. Oh, I think that was one of my adopt-a-pet things that I had, the cats and the dogs. I couldn't find them in my square. I thought I put them under like adoptable pet or adoption or something. I put them under pet adoption. So I had to scroll down to the P, not A, and I couldn't find it. So that was what that custom was, amount was. 11:28 at cash. With cash, I sold a swing animal and a goose keychain. So my fuzzy little goose keychain, I thought I was going to have that forever too, because in my area, people wouldn't pay $18 for a little keychain, but there, no problem. 11:29 with cash, we sold an axolotl and a bird. I think that one was a penguin. 11:32, I sold one of my little fairies. 11:35, I sold another fairy, and those were both for $15. The axolotl and the bird was $16. Then let's see, 11:58 with cash was a $5 item, an axolotl, one of my like little dressed up frogs, and a little derpy turtle for $36. A lot of people were playing with cash or Venmo because I noticed in my area, people don't really care about that 10 cents fee. But there, people were like, oh, there's a 10-cent fee, let me pay with cash or Venmo. Because they would ask if Venmo had a fee, and I would tell them no. So they really didn't want to pay that 10 cents. Maybe in Indianapolis, a lot of places charge that. I'm not sure, so maybe they tried to avoid it. At 12:02, I sold one of the adoptable pets for $10. 12:02, so right after each other, another adoptable pet. I really wanted to have a sign for that, and I didn't have a sign. I forgot to make it, but I was telling little girls and all the people looking at them, oh, if you want to switch the beds, you can. Like, if you don't like that bed with that dog, you can just switch it. And they were having fun doing that. So those did really well. I sold out of those fairly quickly, and people loved them. I think the sign would have made it even better, so I definitely want to make more of those. Those were a great seller. At 12:03, I sold a moth for $10. At 12:07, I sold a $5 item, and those were both on cash. 12:11 on cash was a $10 pig. 12:23 with cash was two $5 items for $10. 12:27 with cash was a dragon for $15. Now we have a card again, so 12:35 was two $5 items and the card fee for $10.10. On card again, $12.38, a $5 item, so $5.10. $12.47, a character and an animal swing on card for $20.10. I'm not sure what character that was. $1.12, we had a swing animal and two $5 items with cash for $20. With cash again at $1.13, I sold a loaf cat for $10. $1.14 with cash was two $5 items for $10. On card at $1.15, we had a loaf cat and one of the adoptable pets for $20.10. $1.15, we had a dragon on card for $15.10. $1.17, we had a $5 item on card for $5.10. $1.34, cash for a loaf cat at $10. $1.35, two $5 items, a mini and a mini bluey on card for $18.10. $11.46, an adoptable pet for $10. $1.47, a $5 item for $5. $1.48, a bird and a dog for $20, and I think that one was the mallard. $1.49 on card was my fries, and that was $10.89. I think they came back with one of those comeback cards. $11.49 was one of the little animals in an egg for $12.10. I'm going to stop telling you whether it was cash or card, because if you hear the 10 cents, you know it was card. If you don't hear the 10 cents, you know it was cash. $1.51, we had two $5 items for $10. $1.55, we had an opossum for $8. $1.59, we had a swing animal and a character for $20. At $2, we had my big dragon levy. I've had that thing forever, and it was really shocking to see that sell. I've had it forever. I've always hung it up on my grid walls. He's kind of like my little mascot at this point, so I was kind of sad to see him go, but I was also happy. So he sold for $60.10. At $2.04, I sold a bird for $8.10, and that would have been my mallard. That was the last one. At $2.05, we sold my other animal and an egg, the mallard shelf goose for $37.10. At $2.13, we sold a mini bluey and a character for $18. $2.17, we sold a skunk and a custom amount for $23.10. Let me see if I can figure out what that custom amount was. It was $15. I am not sure what that was. At $12.37, we sold a duck for $13 and an $8 item. A duck and an $8 item for $13. That was around when my husband took the Venmo payment, which is not listed, and that one. $2.52, we sold an $8 item, another $8 item, and a custom amount for $23.10. So again, I'm not sure what that one was. At $3.08, we sold a frog for $15. $3.11, I sold a wand for $7.10. $3.13, I sold a fluffy cat for $10. $3.16, I sold one of the finger puppet bunnies for $7. $3.17 was a $5 item, a unicorn, and a dog for $25.10. At $3.18, I sold another character for $10. $3.41, I sold a bat for $13.50. They came back with a comeback card. Well, at $3.42, I have a custom amount for $27. This one was where I sold my big weighted mushroom. She did part cash and part card. So I only marked in the card for the $27 and not the cash. Let me see. Yeah, and not the cash. So she paid $47 for that. I had it marked at $60. This is the first time I've ever had somebody ask to lower my price, and I usually would not do that, and most people don't ask that because they understand that that's rude. But it was towards the end of the day, and he was, he was a weighted plushie, so he's a big guy, and I had him for $60. So she asked how low I would go, and I told her $50. She came back and asked if I would take $40 because her daughter really wanted it, and I said no. And as soon as I started to say no, she said, okay, $45. and I said, how about I meet you at 47? I kind of regret doing that. The minimum I would have sold it for was $50. So I did lose $3, but at the end of the day, I guess it's just $3. And I'm one of those people who have a really hard time saying no to people. But, you know, this is the first time it's happened. Hopefully it won't happen again. And if it does, I kind of know a little bit better next time. $3.47, I sold a Stegosaurus for $8. $3.54, I sold a bigger bluey, a loaf unicorn on card for $24.39. That would have been another comeback card. And then this was after 4 o'clock when we were packing up, and it was after the last clip in the vlog. A little girl came by and wanted to dig through my bags, and she picked out the s'more plushie for $15. So that brought us to our $930 total, plus a little bit. So we would have had an extra $20 for the big mushroom. Another thing that wasn't marked in here at all, I thought I would see it from the custom amount. You know, I would have seen it from the custom. Somewhere I mentioned it and it didn't register with me because I would have had to put it in for card. I sold my granny square flower bag for $50. 2 girls came and really wanted that, and so they split like some cash and some card. So I think they gave me $10 in cash, so that would have been $40. So that's an extra $60. And then the Venmo transaction that my husband took, I don't know how much it was. I want to say it was like $15. So that's an extra $75 to the total, which would bring us to $1,005.38. So I guess once I add up all those other amounts that I did not add, we broke over $1,000, which is absolutely crazy to me. I never thought something like this would happen, especially when I sell in a small town most of the time. And with so many of those bigger items selling and clearing out all of those older items in my inventory, like I've had that dragon lovey forever, that granny square purse I had forever. There was a lot of items I was cleaning out my bag, just throwing stuff out there. By the end, I only had 2 items left in my bag, and they were items I refused to put out. One of them is a dragon that I didn't like the pattern because instead of laying straight, he curves. And another one is a penguin on a swing that I think I stuffed too much because he's top heavy and just flips over. So I need to fix that one, but obviously I wasn't going to put it out. So I put out every last thing I had except for those 2 items. And I still only came back with, when I was cleaning my table off, like 20 items. So it was an amazing day, and I definitely plan to go back. Even with the amount of other crocheters, I still did good, so I'm really happy. And I know the crochet booth down from me, I know they were doing well too. They sold a lot of loveys, like the Mama Made Mini loveys, so they were selling a lot of things for babies, and a lot of people were buying baby shower gifts over there. So it was good that we were pretty different. I don't put too much for babies. Another custom amount that I would have said for $15, I think the one that I said was for $15 and I wasn't sure, that was for my goose lovey. I didn't like that goose because you were supposed to, it was a free Instagram pattern. You were supposed to stuff the body, and I didn't realize that. So it just looked like a dead goose, and I didn't like it. I had a $20 price tag on it, and a lady was really looking at it. She really liked it, and I was like, you know what? I'll give you $15 for it. I'll take $15 for it. And she was like, really? You don't have to do that. I'm like, no, I want it gone. I've had it forever. I just want it gone. So if you'll take it for $15, I'll take that, because I was tired of looking at it. So I sold that too. Unfortunately, a lot of the things I made specifically for this market didn't sell. So for example, the wands. I had 3 wands, I only sold 1. The stress ball mushrooms, sold none of those. I don't know if it was just the way I displayed them or people didn't understand. I did have some kids look at them, but they ended up picking something else. The finger puppet bunnies, only sold 1. Part of that was, I think I had them at $8, and I heard somebody pick one up and go, oh, $8, that's kind of steep for that. So then I was like, okay, well, hearing that and they're not selling, and it was like 2 o'clock at that point, I lowered them down to $7. And $7 is the lowest I would go on those. So then I sold one for $7. But I was telling people like, oh, they're finger puppets. It was really funny. I had two young guys, maybe in their 20s. I think they were shopping for one of their girlfriends. And they were having a ball with those bunnies. I was like, oh, those are finger puppets. And they were like, oh my gosh, I should get one of these for us. And then every time we argue, we have to argue with the bunny finger puppets. I'm like, that's a pretty good relationship advice right there. It'd be pretty hard to argue with bunnies. So that was something else that didn't sell. And oh, the dressed up frogs, I think I only sold like 2 out of the 5. I sold the fairy one and a wizard one. Oh, I think one of those might have been a custom. No, I don't know. I think I did have it listed. So yeah, one of the wizard ones and a fairy frog. And I think that those were all the items that didn't sell that I made for the fairy festival. The fairy sold, the big mushroom guy sold. Oh, the forest fairy cow did not sell. Everybody loved that cow. I'm assuming it's because the price on it was too high, but I didn't want to lower it because I put a lot of work into it. I hand painted the eyes. I had to freehand mushroom pattern for it, and figure out how to position that to be in proportion with the head. I did all the embroidery with the moss and stuff. I mean, I put a lot of work into it, so I'm not going to lower the price on that one. But other than that, that was most of what I came home with. Other stuff was like older stuff that I've had for a while that just hasn't sold, so I wasn't surprised that I came home with some of that. Oh, and it says 56 transactions, so I had 56 sales for the day. And that is pretty much all I have for you guys today. Remember to check out the links in the description to any of those shops that I talked about and go check them out, give them some love, follow them or check out their Etsy. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below. Comment down below about what kind of events you have coming up. What are you making for those events? And what do you think I should market prep next? So I hope to see you on my next video. Bye!